Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to start with the new chapter of your English textbook, Honeycomb. The name of the chapter is Fire, Friend, and Foe. Here, foe means enemy. Okay, so before starting the chapter, let me tell you one thing that we know that fire is both useful and dangerous. Fire is also a necessary evil. It is a boon as well as a curse. It has made our life comfortable, but we cannot touch it. It was the first great invention made by early man. Early man, let us start the chapter. All of you look at the screen. Early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Fire was powerful and dangerous, and he was frightened. Fire may have puzzled early man, but we now know that fire is the result of a chemical reaction. When the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. So, here, early man didn't know how to make fire, but he must have seen the destructive power of fire. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes. He was afraid of it. What is fire? Fire is, in fact, the result of a chemical reaction. The air has oxygen while fuels have carbon and hydrogen. When the two combine, energy is released in the form of heat and light. So this is what we call fire. So three things are needed to make fire: fuel, oxygen, and heat. And wood, coal, cooking gas, and petrol are same examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. That is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we heat it before it catches fire. So we generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. So what things are needed to make fire fuel? There are three things which are needed to make fire fuel. One is fuel, another is oxygen, and the third one is heat. So the common fuels are wood, coal, gas, and petrol. So we know that oxygen comes from the air. That is why when we blow on burning paper, it bursts into flame. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire themselves. They need heat. We generally do it with a lighted match. So a lighted match provides that heat. Every fuel begins to burn at a particular temperature. It is sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. But it only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. For instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast areas of forest are also destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed or injured. We know that fire is a good servant but also a bad master. It is useful as long as it is under control. The moment it becomes out of control, what happens? It spreads destruction, havoc. Okay, so every year thousands of homes and thousands of homes and trees are damaged by fire. So forest fire destroys trees and kills people. So for instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. So forest fire destroys trees and kills people. So just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways in which a fire can be put out. In each one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. The second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching. The first way of putting out fire is to take away the fuel. Okay, and the second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. So now this is the second way. The first way to put out a fire is to take away the fuel, and another one is to stop oxygen. Okay, stop oxygen from reaching the burning material. And let us see the third way. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. Third one is to remove the bring down the temperature below the flash point. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. Sometimes water is sprayed on a fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen and a fire is extinguished. So here three ways of putting out a fire is described. So the third one is to bring down the temperature below the flash point, and if we remove the hot air around the burning candle, then also it will go out. Fire will go out. Then water also lowers the temperature, and water also can lowers the temperature of that heat and puts out the fire. So some fires cannot be put out with water. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. This can be very dangerous because the water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. So we spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways of preventing fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. So we know that some fires cannot be put out with water. Oil fire is one such example. The oil float because the oil floats to the top of the water and continues to burn as well as spread. So electrical fire also can't be controlled with water. It is fought by using carbon dioxide. oxide. So on the whole, we have learned well to control fire and make good use of it in everyday life. Yes, long ago there were no firemen. When fire broke out, everybody became a firefighter. People formed movement chains, they still do if required, and passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. Now there are laws about building construction which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Bans of yeah what is that? Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipment known as fire brigades are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. They are also trained in first aid so that they can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. Now, here what happened long ago? In earlier days, there were no firemen. When the fire broke out, people used to bring and throw bucketfuls of water on the flames. And now there are laws about, there are no laws to, stall fire, extinguishers in every big building. And there are fire brigades in every town. Train firefighters use their skills like cutting off electrical supply, then pulling down weak walls and spraying water to bring fire under control. So they are also trained. They are also trained to provide first aid to injured people. Now, the discovery of the fire and its uses help early man to cope with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. Fire is indeed a friend, but as we know, it can be a dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. Now, fire, though it is, a very dangerous, okay, but still people worshipped in many parts of the, fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. It helped early man to keep up animals and settle down in safe places. So, so it can be a dangerous, then it can be a dangerous fire can be a dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. So fire is indeed a friend, okay, indeed a friend, but it again proves as an enemy if it goes out of control. So here this chapter ends. So dear children, all of you must read the chapter once again and try to understand what are the uses and what are the uses of fire and how far it can be dangerous and how far it can be a dangerous enemy in our life. So we'll be discussing the question answers in our next class. I'll ask you the question answers in our next class. So this much is for today, children.